Hello, I'm Robert Perry Cruz, Board Certified Behavior Analyst and Special Education Teacher. This video describes how to use picture activity schedules, a fabulous bit of teaching technology that, in my opinion, is fun and easy to use for teachers and students alike. After watching this video, you should be able to define and explain the uses of a picture activity schedule, be able to list the prompts used in the setup of a variety of picture activity schedules, be able to run a picture activity schedule, and to collect data on student performance. One of the reasons that picture activity schedule technology was originally developed was to find a way to target the challenges with play that frequently occur for children with autism. Children with autism often have restricted or repetitive patterns of behavior as part of their disability. This results in frequency of lining up toys, motor stereotypy, ritualized patterns of behavior or ritualized patterns of play, and an overfixation on certain activities. Children with autism are also more likely to have deficits in social interactions, such as a failure to participate in back-and-forth interactions, difficulty in sharing play interests, and an absence of interest in peers. Given these skill deficits, it's not surprising that many children with autism lack typically developing play repertoires. As students grow, they may become more frustrated when adults attempt to interrupt their preferred play scripts and engage in challenging behavior as a result. Even for students who respond well to adult play prompting, fading these prompts can be very difficult and often results in a failure of the student to generalize play skills to new settings. Even if one is able to teach a play skill and successfully fade adult prompting, the length of time required may outweigh the amount of learning that occurs. In general, a picture activity schedule is a book or list of activities to complete. It views play as a complex chain of behavior, sort of like a task analysis procedure. The picture activity schedule teaching uses graduated guidance to fade adult prompting. It allows for multiple variations on the schedule, which can increase the complexity of play repertoires. You can program for generalization of these schedules by switching activities, switching the settings, etc. And it even allows you to embed other pieces of social interaction, like talking with an adult or sharing a high five with a friend. Let's take a moment to talk about where the original research for picture activity schedules came from. Original research with picture activity schedules came from work done by McDuff, Krantz, and McClanahan, working with adolescent males in a residential program. The authors created a book featuring pictures of 5 activities. They chose familiar and novel activities, though made sure to note to avoid activities that are paired with challenging behavior, had 1 activity picture per page, and color-coded the pages for easier discrimination by the student. Originally, all activities were placed within easy reach of the student, so at the table or close to them in their room. The teacher, when prompting, stayed behind the student and used graduated guidance to prompt responding. In the original research, and in most schedules I've seen, the last activity was a reinforcing item, an edible or a toy. The procedure in the original article looks very similar to the procedure we use today. First, present the closed schedule book. Give a cue. It's time to do your schedule, or some variation of that. For each activity, the student responses should include opening the book or turning the page as the schedule is progressed, pointing to a picture, possibly saying the item name, getting the item picture, interacting with the item, typically closed-ended tasks are preferred to be used, putting the item away, and repeating until reaching the end of the book, where the student will receive reinforcement, a toy or an edible paired with social praise. One of the main components of picture activity schedules, and one of the major stumbling blocks I've found in training new staff to use picture activity schedules, comes in the use of prompting by graduated guidance. Many staff I've seen want to talk the student through the schedule or manually guide the student through the entire schedule. But I found once we work on graduated guidance as a prompt procedure, many students are able to learn the skill of following a picture activity schedule quickly. During prompting of a picture activity schedule, staff should remain behind the student and use graduated guidance. If a student begins to make an error, like turning 2 pages or trying to leave or grabbing the wrong items, or if the student doesn't respond or doesn't move along for 3 to 5 seconds, the teacher should prompt using graduated guidance. For graduated guidance, the teacher or paraprofessional should provide full manual guidance at their hands. As the student begins to respond appropriately or accurately, the staff should fade back their guidance, hand over hand to forearm to upper arm, etc. For example, if the student starts to turn the page before completing the task, the staff would manually guide the student at the hand to choose the correct page. As the student begins to turn the correct page, the staff would shadow and move back before ceasing prompting altogether, seeing that the student is engaging in the next correct response. The goal is to fade prompting as quickly as possible while ensuring correct responding occurs. Our picture activity schedule datasheet is structured around the same skills tracked in the original research. Staff should score independence or prompts provided for each activity on the schedule, for whether the student opened the book or turned the page, pointed to the picture, gathered the materials needed, used the materials appropriately, and put the materials away. While many students are able to use this basic schedule format after only a few training sessions, some students may struggle. If so, the picture activity schedule procedure can be modified, perhaps by presenting fewer activities, keeping the schedule content static and unchanging, or increasing teacher proximity for more rapid prompting. On the flip side, for students who rapidly demonstrate independence with the schedule, the teacher should look to modify the schedule to more effectively mimic actual play. Move materials from the table to their location in the classroom. Have the instructor move farther away from the student, or add more pages of activities. Rotating their presentation in the schedule. Maybe throw in completely novel tasks. Criteria to add these modifications will vary, though I typically recommend 3 consecutive sessions with the student responding with 80% accuracy and independence. With some practice of the procedure for a standard picture activity schedule, you and your students should be off and running in no time. But what about when the schedule is mastered? Are there other ways the schedule can be used? But of course! One modification is the addition of a choice component to the schedule. Rather than prescribing the activity to be completed, teachers can place pictures of toys or activities on one side of the schedule page for the student to choose. A diagram of this modification can be seen here. Adding options of preferred toys or activities may improve the reinforcing value of the schedule to the student, as well as provide opportunities for choosing the order of the schedule, a great real-world skill. Alternately, providing more choice in their order may make the presentation of less preferred activities more likely to result in compliance. For an even more advanced modification, add a timer to the schedule. Many of the activities we enjoy are open-ended, i.e., we could engage with them for as long as we want. While this is fine for a Saturday morning, free access to preferred activities isn't conducive to running a school, so a timer allows for the student to engage with these open-ended tasks without missing large swaths of instruction. For students who are able to identify numbers, adding a timer might be as simple as placing a picture under the activity with the amount of time they may engage with it. For students who cannot identify numbers or who have trouble using a timer, you can use visual cues like green dots for the number of times to press the minute button, a red dot to denote starting the timer, and then adding these visuals to the actual timer, so placing a green colored piece of paper over the minute button and a red colored piece of paper over the start button. You can flip those around or play with the colors however you like, but in the end, you've got a very simple way to prompt the use of a timer. In the words of the immortal showman, but wait, there's more! Krantz and McClanahan continue their work with picture activity schedules, looking into the possibility of adding more social interaction to the otherwise solitary program. In research from 1998, Krantz and McClanahan added scripted statements as an activity in the schedule to increase social interaction. They added look and watch me sentence strips to the activity pages. Students were initially taught to use these sentences as part of a discrete trial training program. Then, once mastered, the look and watch me strips were added above or below a picture of the activity. Watch me was a cue for the student to gain attention when starting an activity, while look was a cue to gain attention from an adult after an activity. Typically, staff would respond with a short sentence like, "Oh, that's a great train," or "Wow, that looks like fun." The reason for adding these interactions was to increase the rate of commenting in general. In the study, Krantz and McClanahan found that the more opportunities the students had to comment, the more novel comments occurred and were able to be reinforced with social praise. They found this modification to be effective with both high and low functioning students with autism spectrum disorder. So this may be a modification that almost any student could use. In the same vein, recent research has extended picture activity schedules even more into the social skills scene with a joint picture activity schedule. In research done in 2008, a pair of students were given one schedule to share. The students' schedules contained pictures of interactive games like Don't Break the Ice. There was a picture of the student at the top of each page so that the students understood which one of them should choose the game. The students were trained to say, "Let's play," whatever game they were to choose, and then gather the materials and set up before both children would play. Remember, even though the students in this study were very successful in the use of a joint picture activity schedule, there were many prerequisites that they already possessed, such as already knowing how to use a picture activity schedule independently, and an ability to play a number of simple games without adult prompting. It's unclear whether these same results would have been found without those skills firmly in the student's repertoire. So if you're interested in using a joint picture activity schedule, make sure that some of those, if not all of those prerequisites, exist for your students. A recent addition to the picture activity schedule playbook involves the use of linked schedules. While the only published work on linked schedules focused on teaching hide and seek, the same idea could be tried with a number of other situations, such as imaginary play. At the top, you'll see a picture of what these schedules looked like. Each student was given a schedule in which different pages listed them as being the hider or the seeker in the game hide and seek. For students who were the hider, they would see a page with a picture of a location to hide and the strip, "Oh no." On the seeker page, there would be pictures of two possible locations and the numbers 1 to 20, as well as the social strips for sentences "Go hide" and "I found you." Each page, the student would switch roles. Students used Velcro watch straps to bring the strips along with them while seeking or hiding as a cue of their social language. Much like in other picture activity schedules, students received graduated guidance to complete the tasks, as well as vocal prompting to make the social statements. Over time, the researchers faded the visual for the scripts by cutting more and more pieces off of it until the students were responding without the visual strips. Here's a breakdown of just what exactly was on each student's schedule. After mastery of the linked schedule, the researchers switched the order of hiding locations and added novel hiding locations. They also switched the order of which student was hiding or seeking. All three groups were able to learn to follow the schedule to play a game of hide and seek. If you're simply looking to increase the independent and appropriate interactions of a student in different settings, it might be possible to teach a student to use a picture activity schedule specific to other settings, such as recess, preschool center time, assisted daily living skills, lunch, inclusion, or vocational tasks. While new, there is research to support the use of picture activity schedules to improve the play of children on the playground, for example. It's unclear how much picture activity schedules can generalize to new settings without additional training, so don't be surprised if your great new schedule to have the student engage in independent responding during lunch doesn't quite work the first time. Just follow your standard teaching procedure, and you should be able to see success across any of these settings. While picture activity schedules are great additions to the instruction of children with autism, there are some limitations. First, some students may not be able to learn to use a picture activity schedule if that student fails to meet prerequisites like basic discrimination skills or inability to engage in simple play skills, or if they don't like graduated guidance. If none of these prerequisites, or even some of these prerequisites, aren't in the student's repertoire, you may not want to use a picture activity schedule and instead work on these missing skills first. Without the schedule, students may not be able to maintain independence in skills. In fact, most research shows that without the picture activity schedule, many students will return to their old, less appropriate forms of play. Some find the picture activity schedule to be stigmatizing in certain environments. Now, while I understand this limitation, most research on adult productivity focuses on the use of to-do lists in daily living. If productive members of the workforce use this more advanced form of an activity schedule, why would anyone consider it inappropriate to teach to children? Finally, the use of more advanced schedules may require some discrete trial training to teach related skills like reading words or counting. While any teaching procedure will have its pros and cons, my opinion is that the pros of teaching picture activity schedules completely outweigh any cons, especially as many of these cons can be overcome with additional instructional time. I hope that after watching this video, You can define and explain the use of a picture activity schedule, list prompts used in the setup of a variety of picture activity schedules, and feel comfortable with role-playing the running of a picture activity schedule and collecting data on its performance. If you're a teacher or BCBA watching this video, or just want to know where I got my information, here's a list of reference material used in creating this presentation. Each of these have a more robust description of the procedures described briefly in this training. Thank you so much for watching this video on picture activity schedules. If you're using this video as part of a new hire training package, you'll have a chance for some hands-on practice with picture activity schedules at a future face-to-face meeting. For other practitioners, if you're interested in hearing more about recent research in picture activity schedules, I recently did a podcast on this very topic. You can find it on iTunes or wherever you download your podcasts, or go to the site directly. The name of the podcast, ABA Inside Track. You can contact me with questions or feedback at any time at the addresses listed, abainsidetrack@gmail.com or on Twitter @ABAInsideTrack. Thank you so much for watching, and take care.